Hello everyone, how's it going? Billy Ballgame here, back with another video. On this channel, I'm just a dude who loves to talk about baseball cards. And on today's video, much like many videos on my channel, I may be all over the place. But the reason why my YouTube channel is all over the place is because my collection is, or my YouTube channel, the content I put out on YouTube is based off of what's going on in my collection and with me currently in the hobby. And my collection and me within the hobby, I'm really kind of all over the place. So my YouTube channel naturally is going to be a reflection of that. So I hope you can bear with me today, because today I'm going to cover a few different topics. I wanted to show you where my Stan Musial latest autograph that I picked up at the National, thanks to Drew from A Vintage Legacy for kind of zeroing me in on this item. I found a spot for it. I wanted to show you guys that. And then I also have another addition to the background when I do my videos that I'm going to show you. So I'm going to get into that part real quick, and then I'm going to get into the main focus of my video for today. And then there's one other topic that I want to talk about before I get into kind of the meat and potatoes of the video. So I'm going to do Hollywood level camera work like I always do on this channel. And I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to show you the home of my new Stan Musial autograph. So whenever I do that, there's always kind of a little bit of a pause in the audio for the video. So I wanted to kind of make sure that that didn't get all wonky. So here is my Musial autograph that I picked up at the National. Again, shout out to Drew from A Vintage Legacy for cluing me in on this item. And I think I found a really good spot for it. And luckily I didn't have to move anything around to get it to fit there. But I'm kind of running out of those spots where I can just randomly stick an item. And then here recently, I moved this 1948 Cardinals roster to a different spot. It was up on my shelf to the right of me as I film my videos when I'm sitting at my table. And I just thought it looked better here and you could see it, whereas up on the shelf it was kind of hidden. But this is really, really cool, and one of my favorite pieces that I picked up from the basement collection. And then next, credit on this goes out to my buddy Lou at Lou Rock TV. I'd seen for many years on YouTube channels guys that had these, you know, kind of what they call breaker mats. This is actually, I think, a gamer's mat. And I saw Lou's with his daughter on his desk in one of his videos recently. And I'd seen it a few times, and I've been meaning to ask fellow content creators where they got these. And so Lou hooked me up with the link on Amazon and where I could get those. Let me flip this back around again. So yeah, Lou clued me in on the link at Amazon, and I was able to get a custom one made. They did a really good job on it. It shipped really quickly. I think from the time we ordered it to the time it came in, I think it took a couple weeks to get here. And I'm having tripod issues, so I'm going to probably have to get a new tripod here in the not so distant future. So again, I have Hollywood level production on my channel. You've all heard me say that if you followed my channel for for any period of time whatsoever. So there's one more topic that I want to dive into before I get into kind of the meat and potatoes of the video. And again, bear with me, and again, I apologize that this is going to be all over the place, but really it's kind of like my brain, like, oh look, squirrel, and then off on the next thing. So bear with me. But so my buddy Blick's Cards Ben at Blix Cards 10 days ago. On his channel, he did a video where he got an SGC return, and he had questioned whether or not storing cards long term in card savers, semi-rigid, card sleeves, had been damaging his cards. And I've got some cards that at some point I plan on having graded with SGC myself, and some of these cards have been sitting in semi-rigids for probably 2 or 3 years. And so I saw his video, and it was something that I had kind of questioned before. And I decided that I was going to take all of my cards out of semi-rigids and put them all back in top loaders. And luckily, my buddy Adam from Oregon had sent me a care package recently with a box full of top loaders. So my baseball cards that I plan on getting graded, I was able to pull all those out of semi-rigids and put them in top loaders. So I'm done with that. But I still have to do my non-baseball cards. So all these, this is going to be part of like my first submission the next time I do one to SGC, because all these cards here are duplicates. So, and that's going to kind of tie into the main topic of today's video, is kind of replenishing my card account. But all my non-baseball cards are still in semi-rigids. And what I question is, so this is not a card saver. This is a Beckett Shield. And these are bigger. And the cards slide in and out of these much easier than they do a regular card saver. And so my thought is, and again, this is anecdotal. I haven't done any scientific research. I haven't done any experiment to prove my hypothesis or anything like that. But my thought is, do you see how much wider these Beckett Shields are than the Ultra Pros? These cards have a better pocket, or these sleeves have a better pocket for the cards to fit in. And I don't worry quite as much about them damaging the card as I do with the card saver 1s and 2s. But I'm going to pull them all out. And it's really unfortunate that, and he said this in his video, that products that we buy to protect our cards can destroy our cards. And ultimately, that's true with some of these products. Like, think about, when I was younger, when I was in high school, I used to keep a lot of my best cards in a 3-ring binder. And so many of those cards got destroyed because as I got older and started to kind of reorganize and thin out my collection back in 2018 or 19, a lot of those cards were actually stuck to the 9 pocket binder pages, and the cards got destroyed. And then some of them got dents from the ring in the binder, and again, it ruined the cards. So there's another example of a product that we put our cards in to protect them that did damage to our cards. The screw down holders are the same thing potentially. So to me, I've never questioned the grade on a card that I submitted in a top loader once I got that card back. And I submit with SGC. SGC is pretty lenient. I've never had a problem sending cards into them in top loaders instead of semi-rigids. I don't know about PSA. So yesterday, I had a buddy of mine came over for a couple hours and showed him the man cave and talked about cards and all that stuff and had a great time. Justin, one of the wrestling coaches at our school, and he's a dealer and he sells it at shows and he sells on YouTube, and he's just a great dude. And this is going to tie into my next topic once again. But he submits to PSA, and he said that he keeps all of his cards in top loaders until he's getting ready to submit them to PSA, and then he swaps them out into some type of semi-rigid. Now the problem with these are, and most of you know this already, like I've got a I don't remember what year it is, I think a 2008, somewhere around there, Bowman Chrome Albert Pujols that I want to send in to get graded. Well, that's a little bit thicker of a card, and so when I was putting it in a semi-rigid, like it was pretty tight going in there. And I think with some of these, if you slide the card in too far, this pocket is going to tighten up and the card gets harder to get down in there. So and you can do it pretty easily to where I think you could slide these cards in too far and it would compress the corners down here and then lower your grade, probably by 2 grades, I would think, you know, at least off the top of my head. So that's something that Ben from Blick's Cards did a video on recently that I had kind of already had concerns about, because some of the, like I said, some of these cards have been sitting in these for a few years. And so for me, I'm just going to err on the side of caution and pull all of them out of semi-rigids, because SGC doesn't have a problem with me sending them in top loaders. Now, what I'll do for sure when I send them in with top loaders is put these little tabs on here to make it easier for them to pull the card out of a top loader. They don't have to try to open it up and reach in and pull the card out. I don't know if you can do that with PSA. From the way he was talking, PSA, like, they may not grade them if they're not in semi-rigids. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on that. So I think that's it for kind of the rambling kind of thoughts on my mind. But the big thing today that I wanted to talk about is I'm kind of in a rut. I'm not in a rut in the hobby. Like, I'm more charged up and fired up about the hobby, I think, now than I ever have been, just coming back from the National. And really, for me, the biggest part of it is I have so many friends that I can share this hobby with now, that it's amazing to me. Like, probably more now than I even did in high school, when me and a lot of my buddies collected cards. Like, there's so many dudes off of YouTube that I can send a text message to or give a phone call if I have questions or want to talk about cards. You know, my buddy Justin, we've been in the same school district for a few years, and I knew he had sold, that he was into cards, and a couple other teachers at our school are into cards. He doesn't teach at the school, but he coaches wrestling. A couple other teachers at our school are into cards. But like, I collect mostly vintage, and some of these guys are into newer cards, or they're into football cards, or whatever, stuff that I can appreciate for what it is, but I don't actively look for to try to put into my collection. But he came over, and it was like the first time that we had ever hung out, and we had 2 hours to talk about cards. And with so many of you know this, like, it might be the first time that you meet somebody, but you have that common ground of sports cards, whether it's modern, vintage, whatever, and a love of sports. Like, you instantly feel like you've known those dudes for your entire life. And he was here for a little over 2 hours yesterday, and I don't think there was more than 30 seconds where one of us wasn't talking about baseball cards. So as far as like the hobby goes, like, I'm charged up, but I'm replenishing my card account. And as you all know, my card account and my purchases are what drives my YouTube content. Like, I show you guys my recent pickups. I tell you guys what I paid for it. And I break all that stuff down. And I think that transparency is a big part of what makes my channel what it is. Not that it's an amazing channel, but it makes it successful, I guess. Just that transparency, what's going on in my hobby, in my collection, and this is what I picked up, this is where I got it, this is what I paid for it. But on the flip side of that it has caused a rut, and it's caused a rut on the content creation side of things for me, because again, I'm refilling my hobby account. I'm sorry, I've got a mustache hair that's tickling my nose and it's really bugging me. Again, Hollywood level production. But my hobby account, of course, funds my hobby. My hobby funds my YouTube. So for me, replenishing my hobby account has really led to a struggle for me with content creation, and probably the biggest one since I've been on YouTube. And like I've been on YouTube a little over a year and a half now. And I think part of it is the national, what caused kind of a YouTube or a national hangover, because I was doing videos every day at the national, and for the first time ever, YouTube seemed like work when I was at the national. And I enjoyed making the videos, I enjoyed doing the content and putting that out there for you all, especially those of you that didn't get to make it to the national. So this isn't a complaint, but I did a video every day, and there were some nights where I didn't get a video edited and uploaded. Believe it or not, I do some editing. You can't tell from most of my videos, because again, Hollywood level production. But some nights I was working on videos until 2 o'clock in the morning, and then getting up at like 6 in the morning and getting ready to go to the show. So during the national, the content creation side of things, it became work, and normally it doesn't feel like that to me. Normally, I just sit down and start rambling about what I've picked up recently, or whatever's going on in my collection. But since there's not really much going on in my collection right now, it makes it difficult for me to come up with ideas for YouTube videos. And I don't have one of these collections at this point, and I may never, but I don't have one of these collections where I have 2,000 slabbed cards and I can do a Carl Yastrzemski player run and show you every card, every Topps card that Carl Yastrzemski has in his career. So for me, if I'm not actively talking about what I'm picking up, like, my collection is pretty small as far as graded cards go. And so it makes it difficult for me to come up with ideas on what it is that I want to talk about. And I get that not everything I show has to be a graded card. It doesn't have to be a player like Carl Yastrzemski. Like, I get that. But that is what I enjoy within my collection, and I think probably what most of you enjoy when I do my YouTube videos. I'm not a hobby news guy, right? Like, I'm not a guy that is going to come on and go on a rant about whatever that I disagree with in the hobby. So again, my channel, I try to be positive, and I try to keep it geared toward, budget collecting and what's going on in my hobby and in my collection. So when I don't have that to talk about, it makes the YouTube content creation a little bit more difficult. But there is a show coming up on the 24th in Columbia. I'm probably going to go with Tom, and I'm guessing Chris is setting up. So Tom and I will probably meet in Columbia. And so I look forward to that. It's been a long time since I've been to a local show, and I may not have any money, but if I don't have any money, that's fine, because I'll just hang out with Tom and Chris and walk around and talk about baseball cards and look at tables. And I'm on YouTube and involved in this hobby because I love to talk about baseball cards. So for me, it doesn't always have to be about money and spending it to get enjoyment from the hobby. But when I'm not doing that, it definitely makes the content creation side of things uh, more difficult for me. So I think I am going to show you a few cards today. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, this is another excuse to show my Hank Aaron rookie card, but it's also an excuse to use my new mat in the background that I have on my desk. So I think what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you all my Hank Aaron cards that I have currently, at least vintage. And I'm going to show you all my Carl Yastrzemski cards that I have graded as well. So Hank Aaron, all my vintage graded cards, and Carl Yastrzemski, all my vintage graded cards. And I don't have a whole lot of them, but they are two of my favorite players aside that aren't Cardinals or Ken Griffey Jr., right? And Carl Yastrzemski fits into me being left-handed and being very fond of left-handed hitters. Hank Aaron doesn't fall into that category, but he's just one of the greatest of all time. So I'm a huge fan of Hank Aaron. Again, it gives me another excuse to show my Hank Aaron rookie card, but it gives me an excuse to show you again some of the cards that I picked up from Tom probably 3-4 months ago at this point. So bear with me. I'm going to flip this camera around and show you the cards. I'm at 21 and a half minutes. This is going to be less than a 30-minute video because I don't have a lot of cards from either one of these guys. So bear with me and I'll be right back with you. All right, I'm back for the next part. I'm going to show a few cards. Hopefully this shot will work. I've got my tripod propped up on something, so I hope it doesn't fall. And in that first part of the video, by the way, all of those were just observations, my opinions. None of it was a complaint. It was just observation. So I'm going to show my Hank Aaron's first because you guys have seen the rookie card frequently here lately. So I'll show this one first. But there's my Hank Aaron rookie card that I picked up at the National that I am still beyond ecstatic to have in my collection. I hope you like looking at it because I may find a way to work it into every video from here on out. But again, this is, and not just mine, but in my opinion, the Hank Aaron rookie card is one of the best looking cards in the history of our hobby. I think I just love the looks of this card with the orange background and the uniform, and the pictures are awesome. Like, maybe the only way this card could possibly be better is if down here in this little picture he's finishing a swing or about to hit the baseball instead of fielding. Really is the only way this card, in my opinion, could be any better than it already is. So the rest of these are cards that I've picked up from Tom here fairly recently. Here's from the 64 set, but a 63 National League RBI leaders, Hank Aaron, Ken Boyer. Of course, you know I love Ken Boyer, and Bill White. And so it's cool to me that both of those guys are on the Cardinals along with Hank Aaron. So this is a really cool card. You guys know I love combo cards and leader cards. So super happy to pick this up from Tom. And then here's one I picked up on the way home from the National, again from Tom. I had this one in a 4 that was diamond cut and really off center, that I had bought in Columbia at one of the earlier shows I went to when I moved back to Missouri. I'd bought it ungraded and sent it into SGC, and it got a 4. So that one I moved to my buddy Adam from Oregon. It's in his collection now, and I'm happy that he has it. But this one was an upgrade for me. And the 64 set really is growing on me too. My buddy Tom has the whole set complete, every card graded in an 8, and that's amazing. And then here's the 75 Hank Aaron that I also got off of my buddy Tom. Just a great card, well centered, beautiful corners and edges. Love the 75 set. It's the year I was born. When I was younger, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but it's really grown on me. along with several of the sets from the 70s. Like, I used to not like the 72 set, but now I really do. And so I'm going to show you a few Yastrzemski cards, and I think that most of you, if you're watching the channel now, you probably have not seen my Carl Yastrzemski rookie card, because I got it, I think last summer, and my channel was a lot smaller, and that video doesn't have very many views. So hopefully, if you didn't see it in that video, you'll see it here. But I'm going to start with the most recent and work my way back year-wise. This is one I picked up fairly recently. This one is kind of, and I have a lot more Carl Yastrzemski cards because, of course, his last playing days cards are 83, but then they still have cards from him in some of the 84 sets. And I have a lot of those that I'm going to send in and get graded at some point. So I definitely plan on growing my Carl Yastrzemski collection in the future. This one I need to get a sleeve. So all these cards that I have displayed, I had taken them all out of the sleeves if they were in sleeves. But now as I move them around and do stuff with them for YouTube videos, I'm afraid of the slabs getting all scratched up. So now I find myself putting them back in sleeves. And I need to get some of the PSA Superior Fit sleeves to put these in. This one I picked up in one of the St. Louis shows. Tom pulled it out of a bargain box. And I saw how sharp it was, and I asked him if he wanted it. He's like, no, he already had one. So I was like, well, if you don't want it, I'm going to buy it. And I think this was 20 or 25 bucks. And it's just a beauty in a 7. And then here's another card that I bought ungraded from RBI 7 Crew in St. Louis. I think I paid 10 bucks for this ungraded and then sent it in, and it got an 8, and I was super happy with that. I was hoping for a 7, so I was beyond happy with an 8. I think it's got a little bit of a diamond cut, but again, you've got to look at it really, really closely to notice it. And I'm a huge fan of Carl Yastrzemski. Again, he's one of those left-handed batters that as a lefty I've always been fond of. Ken Griffey Jr., left-handed, my favorite player. You know, so Albert Pujols, of course, was right-handed. So, you know, not all my favorite players were left-handed, but a lot of them were. And then here's a 70 Topps Yastrzemski that I also bought from RBI 7 Crew in St. Louis, ungraded. I was hoping for a 7 in this, but it came back as a 6. And I'm okay with that. I mean, just a really... Is it maybe a little undergraded as a 6? I don't know. But that's a sharp looking 6, and I will take it. I've got some 6s in my 60 set that don't look nearly this good. And the 70 Topps set really has some of my favorite Topps backs. Past the 50s. Like the 50s had some really nice backs, and some of the ones in the 60s too, but the 70 Topps set has one of the nicer backs for cards from the 70s, in my opinion. 71s are really nice too. And so here's one of the pieces in my collection that I'm the most happy and the most proud of. This one is, it's not a tremendously expensive card, but I bought this ungraded at the very first show that I went to in Columbia when we moved back to Missouri. And I bought it from Ron Estes, who sets up at all the shows in St. Louis. He sets up at the National. And I bought this ungraded. I paid 40 bucks for it. Sent it into SGC. It was in my first grading submission that I ever did on my own. And at the time, it was $30. And it came back as a 7, and I was ecstatic. And I love this card, and it will never leave my collection. It's just beautiful. Love that. All right, and then here's the Yastrzemski rookie that I have for the 60 set. If you've seen it, hopefully it's not too many times, but a lot of these, as you know, have a lot of overprinting, here on the surface, they have a lot of black like print dots. And this one I thought looked really nice, and it doesn't have any of those that I've been able to find. Maybe very few right there. And it does have a roller mark going across the top. But again, with the naked eye, unless, you know, I'm magnifying it under my phone, like I can't see that. And it's tremendously centered. Just a beautiful card. As you can see, an SGC 5.5. I bought this off of eBay, and it went through the authentication process. They actually did a pretty good job with this one on the sticker and all that stuff. So I didn't pull it off because I didn't think it looked terrible. And this was the first card that I had ever bought that went through eBay authentication. And I didn't really have a problem with the process. I know there have been lots of complaints about it, but it went pretty well for me. So I've always loved this card. I love his 61 tops also. Carl Yastrzemski really has a lot of nice looking cards. So I can't wait to finish the 1960 top set. And then, even though I'm not going to do a 61 top set, I want all the rookie cards and all the Hall of Famers graded all the way through, probably through the 80s. But that Carl Yastrzemski 61 card is going to be one of my first pickups. So, again, I don't have a full run of any player. But I just wanted to show those to you. So I have, that's, I guess, 6 Yastrzemski's graded, and then 4 Hank Aaron's graded. So I'll stop this, turn it around, and wrap up the video. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up. So again, just because I'm not doing anything in my collection as far as picking up cards doesn't mean that in my collection I don't have some cards that I love that I'm happy to show off. So I just kind of wanted to do that today. Just pull out some cards out of my collection that I'm proud of, that I'm glad to have in my collection, and show them to you. And again, some of these cards, like obviously, a Hank Aaron rookie card is not a cheap card. But a lot of these cards, if you're a budget collector, you can pick up cheap. Like I bought this one graded, and it was about $100. But you can buy a really sharp ungraded version of this card for probably $10, maybe 20 at the most. You pay $15 to submit it to SGC. It comes back a 7 or an 8, and you've got a really cool card that you're maybe $20, $30 into. So you can have really cool cards on a budget, and later career cards of Hall of Famers are a good example of how you can get really cool cards for cheap. Again, this one was $25, so already graded. Like, how much does it cost to grade with PSA right now? Like $18 a card if you have a membership. So basically $7 for that card. So again, don't let budget deter you from shooting for some really cool cards. Again, this one I paid $10 for. It's an 8. Now you've got to have a good eye, and you've got to buy good cards if you want high grades. But you can't tell me that a 72 tops Carl Yastrzemski is not a cool card in a 4 or a 5. And you could probably buy a 4 or 5 card raw for less than $5. And then this one, again, I paid $40 for this, and it's an amazing card. Like, there for a while it was worth $300. It was one of the most expensive cards in my collection. I paid $40 for it and $30 to grade it, so $70 total invested in this card. So again, you can be kind of a baller on a budget, so to speak, like me, and you can still add cool cards to your collection. So to me, that's kind of a slump buster, a rut buster for me, because it's like I haven't bought anything in a while since the National. Like, I haven't bought cards after the National. Like, people are already buying stuff, which that's awesome, and I'm happy for them. But I've got to replenish my card account. So it's like, man, I really need to get a video out. What kind of video do I need to do? And then it's like, I still have cool cards that I'm proud of and I enjoy in my collection that I can do a video on, and hopefully you all will enjoy it too. So I'm going to wrap it up at that. I lied. I did go a little bit over 30 minutes. I apologize. We start school next week, so my intent is to get another video out probably Friday or Saturday. So we'll be full back first week of school with kids and everything starting on Tuesday. Last week was kind of just teacher plan and prep and meetings and all that stuff. So we'll be back into the swing of it. Before I know it, I'll be coaching basketball, then it'll be Christmas, and then I'll be coaching baseball, and it'll be the end of the school year again, and it will be into summertime. So as I get old, time flies, and the older I get, the faster time goes. So anyway, I'm going to quit rambling. I'll let you go with that. So I hope everybody has a good one, and until the next one, I'll talk to you later.